I'm Jim Csek.
And I'm Renee Merrifield.
And we're here with Beyond the Ballot, and a big day for Canada. Absolutely massive day. The big budget, right? And this is a budget to remember. And I guess in the words of our PBO, Jason Csek, will it be shocking, stupefying, unsustainable? Or in the words of Francois Philippe Champagne, will it meet the moment? I guess that's the question that'll get answered later today.
Yeah, it's budget day is a big day on Parliament, and it's one that has a tremendous amount of pomp and ceremony. It's one where certain MPs will be taken into rooms and seconded from the rest and shown items ahead of time. They'll get to analyze it, and then they'll be prepared for speech and comments afterwards. But this is a big day, and we've gone the last 7 months without having a budget and watching the Liberals spend up to the tune of $60 billion in deficit. So it'll be very interesting to see what this budget actually says. It was interesting when Pierre Poilievre was on with Rosie Barton. One of the things that she said is like, why would you suddenly settle for $40 billion in deficit? And he's like, well, the money's already been spent. So how am I actually supposed to do anything other than that? I thought that was a really interesting comment. And I think that's what Canadians don't understand is that this is money that has already been spent already, and we just have until March to come.
Speaking of Rosemary Barton and Pierre Poilievre, we do have a clip here because it's 7 months in, and Pierre Poilievre questioning what's been done in 7 months. Let's listen in on Pierre and Rosie Barton here.
These are the results that he's got. Since he promised to get rid of American tariffs, they've doubled and tripled in the case of softwood lumber. He says he's going to open up other markets, so he meets with the Chinese. And what do? They increase tariffs on canola, seafood, and pork. He meets with the Indians. What do? Increase tariffs on our peas by 30%. He meets with the Brits. What do? They hit us with blockades of our beef. It seems like everywhere Mark Carney goes, with these grand meetings and photo ops, we end up with more tariffs. His failures abroad are costing us at home.
He met with the Chinese president, and they made a decision that their officials were going to get together and try and solve the trade irritants. He is trying to make some progress. No, you don't see those things as a bit of progress?
What progress? Can you name one tariff line that he's reduced abroad?
No, not at this stage, no.
Not one?
That's good.
No. He said 7 months.
That's good.
Yeah, this is a great interview. Take a look. Obviously, not friendly fire. Rosemary Barton is going to definitely, hold his feet to the fire and then some. It's certainly not the softballs that we see Carney getting from CBC. This is a hard hitting, and honestly, I have to say, I can't recall another politician doing as well under that fire as what Pierre Poilievre did. And, I didn't have high expectations, but honestly, he actually got, Rosemary Barton right here to admit that there has not been a single tariff lifted. And I think all Canadians should be really concerned about this right now.
Even more so, no deals. That's the thing. Nada, nothing, just nothing. And I guess a mistake or whatever, but Carney traveling in Trump's wake, really. Do you know what I mean? Like traveling in his wake, and Trump, according to Bessett, comes home with $2 trillion worth of signed deals. And the one that's really tough to swallow if you're eating your pablum is he signed with the South Koreans that LNG deal, which you'll be familiar with, because they begged Trudeau 2 years ago, when Carney was the economic advisor, for that LNG deal. We said there was no business case, and they signed that deal there, along with the Germans and along with Japan.
Japanese.
Took the 3 deals they begged us for, literally begged us for, and it's just so tough to watch that, right? And then Rosemary Barton, I think, later in that interview goes, well, Carney's got meetings with China. It takes time with meetings. No. The people in your cabinet or in the trade committee, they go ahead, they make these deals. Trump isn't making these deals in the moment. All this groundwork is laid. Trump shows up to sign the documents. That's it, right? The deals with all these people. He's just the signatory on these things. Same thing goes for his peace deals, Gaza and that. Rubio and all those other guys are there making the deals. Trump shows up as the ambassador of the United States, really. and signs the deal. Like, so does Canada not figure that out, that Carney is actually in the room making deals, that he's there to set up meetings? Come on.
Well, and I think that what we've done is forgotten. I mean, if we think back to Prime Minister Harper, Harper was definitely signing deals. He signed more deals than any other prime minister has, and that 40, was the pomp and ceremony. Yeah. That was the pomp and ceremony. That was when he flew in. He definitely was there to ink the deal, not to make the deal, not to talk about the deal, not to plan the deal. So we have a very odd situation going on, and you and I discussed this last week too. The Carney traveling in the wake of Trump looked ridiculous, and especially because what ended up happening is that he apologized for an ad. That's probably the most significant thing that happened, and that's all that anyone's talked about since he's come home. So for him to take time out of his calendar and visit 20 different stops along his way and not come home with a single new deal. Not only has he not inked a deal with the U.S. and removed any sort of the tariffs that have been put on, but he also has not gotten us new deals for LNG, new deals for oil, new deals for our critical minerals. I mean, literally, Trump is signing deals with Japan for critical minerals, and we are being denied a meeting with the Japanese prime minister. It was a terrible show for Carney, and it certainly is not one of strength.
And even the kind of like the fakery, or what do you want to call it, is like, the Instagram account. If you go look at Carney's Instagram account, where it's showing him signing books and that, literally signing guest books. Do you know what I mean? Like, and how stupid do they think the Canadian public is? Literally, how stupid it is that? You know what I mean? Because it makes it look like it's an actual official signing. It's literally signing a guest book. Absolutely. You are so right. Anyway, the one that sticks in my craw, that was fast though. Look, you found it. It was misplaced. There you go.
It fell off, and I have found it. So my apologies.
Yeah, Ian got in some heat this morning over that, so there you go.
Can I just say, I'll pause for 1 second. My great-grandfather was a 2 World War veteran. He fought for the English in the First World War, and he fought for the Canadians in the Second World War. The only memory I have of him was him showing us his bullet wounds. He got the Purple Heart, I think it is, for wounded in battle. And the whole thing was like, it was right through his stomach area, and so we would it was like this big deal about like us as great grandkids getting to see all of his war wounds. So it was I actually am very very proud of our veterans and very proud of our democracy that they fought so valiantly for and on behalf of all of us. So I wear my poppy very proudly. And I was, when I got here this morning and it was no longer on me, I was devastated because, it's a great time of remembrance. For those of you that are in Kelowna, go see the White Cross display. Very poignant, very real to see all of those names of Kelownaites that were lost in battle.
And Ian let us know this morning that his family was in London when they rained down on London, when the bombs dropped, and his family also participated in the battles. On the other hand, my great grandparents were on the other side of the skirmish, and he ended up being a POW. He was a Hungarian, and he ended up in the as a British prisoner of war. So there you go.
Wow.
So. The one that sticks in my craw, though, back to the sticks in my craw, the worst, though, in these deals is Mark Carney's Brookfield Asset Management and Cameco, 2 Canadian companies, signed a massive deal in the United States, massive deal, 80 billion US, which is about 112 billion Canadian, to build 8 large nuclear reactors and fast-track large nuclear reactors in United States of America. At the same time, Tim Hodgson is touting, and Mark Carney was touting, he's in Asia, that they're going to do some stuff, critical mineral stuff. And it turns out that it was a lot of nothing again. It was about $2 billion when you take out all the stuff that was prior committed and all this other stuff. $2 billion in a mining deal, and you know what that is. Like, New Gold just got bought out for $8 billion. $2 billion in a mining deal goes nowhere, right? So.
No, most mines will spend over $1 billion just in due diligence to even get to a final investment decision. So that is a drop in the bucket. This again is, I don't want to be a broken record, but I don't like thinking about my prime minister's conflicts of interest. I don't like that when Brookfield does a deal, I immediately think, how is he involved? What did he know? And why isn't he doing that for us? Like, why isn't he actually getting us deals and inking us deals? And why can't he be, working for us? The one thing about Trump is, he might be self-interested, but he is getting deals for the American people. He is getting deals for American companies. He is getting deals for American jobs. I don't see our prime minister doing that. And I don't care how much money and how much, you saw the report on the green economy and how it's costed every single Canadian $12,000. I'm sorry, that is $12,000 that most Canadians do not have. And that is a massive debt that we have incurred to try and get to a green economy that has been proven it does not work. It is costing us money, not giving us money. It is not leading to an increase in our GDP per capita. It is not leading to a better economy. And we have to pivot. So for me, this was a bad week in terms of seeing what Brookfield is doing and knowing that we are not in any way a beneficiary.
Well, they're gonna drop this budget today. I think 1 p.m. our time, Pacific Standard Time. And I think if you have a bell on your desk, you can ring it every time you hear the words catalyze, and every time you hear the words carbon capture. Because I have an inkling that they're going to drop the emissions cap and they're going to replace it with carbon capture, which is going to allow private corporations to tax our energy, basically tax our wealth, because they've got that scheme you and I've talked about in the past, where they use these carbon capture technologies, and then I've explained it so many times, and then inject it into the ground and sell these carbon credits. I just hope it's not the case, but it looks like it's all been leading up to this carbon capture, and that's just another taxation for the Canadian public on our energy, our wealth, what we need right now.
Yeah, and it'd be one thing if some of these companies were in Canada and leading to Canadian jobs. The reality is about Brookfield, and going back to what they are doing, is that they're actually avoiding taxes in Canada and avoiding about $6 billion in taxes in Canada. So carbon capture, there's a lot of different information out there, and most say that it's really nonsensical and doesn't really result in anything.
It's a very complicated scheme, which makes it great, right? You know what I mean? Like, as far as schemes go, the more complicated you can make it, the better it is. And this one involves using like big HVAC fans, sucking air through it, putting it into a carbon filter, and then sequestering it, and then putting it into a truck, and then trucking it to a location, drilling deep holes, injecting it into the ground, and then selling those credits to corporations. How do you audit that? How do you monitor that? I mean, it's just like, it's a lot of like witchcraft, really, right? So anyway,
yeah.
And I want to highlight
minimal.
And I want to highlight this because this really is telling, and I think part of the problems in Canada is our media. And you and I have talked about this many, many times. And this is let's watch Mark Carney arrive in Parliament Hill this morning.
Bonjour tout le monde. Morning. Morning. Morning, Lars.
Morning, sir.
How are you?
Good.
Big day.
Big day, good day.
Now, Donald Trump walks into one of the bigger days. This is a big day in Canada, this budget, because our PBO has said it's going to be shocking, stupefying, unsustainable. Not a question from a reporter. Nothing. No, nothing.
Not a single question. That is bizarre. Those reporters that are all sitting there, the only reason that they would not ask a question is because they were told not to and they obeyed. That is the most ridiculous use of a press gallery. The press gallery is on the Hill. They have unrequited access. There are public and there are private hallways. When any parliamentarian is walking through a public hallway, they are fair game. This was an absolute political show and nothing more than that. And it disgusts me that is what we have become.
It really shows the state of media in Canada. They've been crippled and corrupted, crippled to the point where they have to be at the begging bowl. We talked about this morning. The chorus had kind of like refinanced their debt and all this stuff, and basically a penny stock. I mean, they've been crippled to the point where they're basically the walking dead, and now they're at the begging bowl of the government. I mean, they won't let us in there. We've tried to get access because Ian lives in Ottawa. And we can't get into the parliamentary gallery, right? So, because we would ask the question. We would ask a question. This is a big day for Canada. And nothing, absolutely nothing.
And, you know, the juxtaposition again. I mean, Trump has done more media interviews and allowed himself to be, you know, grilled by more independent and mainstream media than any other president before him. And meanwhile, up here, we have a president who has muzzled, our prime minister, look at me, I'm even making the mistake, but the prime minister who has literally muzzled all media, you know, muzzled the independents by not even allowing them access, and muzzled the mainstream by telling them that they must be silent and toe the line.
And then if you go back to, I think it was Saturday's press conference, you know, when he did at the end of his trip to Southeast Asia there, that one is so telling as well. In the room, the questions were, and these questions were softball too. It was CBC, CBC Radio Canada, CBC Globe and Mail, CBC New York Times. That's it. And they were all just like, oh, I know it's been so long. And it was just, they were actually flirtatious, some of the questions. And I was just like, oh my God, here's you know, the ad thing that came up is, you know, like, did you know, did you apologize, all that stuff, and nobody took them to task. And it's, again, the control that they have over the media in Canada. There's no way you get away with that in the UK or the United States.
No way. No way. And there was so much to ask him about. You and I, in this, you know, short 20 minutes, have already articulated and identified, you know, why did you come home with no deal? Why are you not, you know, fighting harder for the Canadian people? Why are you going on these trips in the first place if all we get is more tariffs? Like there is just no reason for him to be traveling if there isn't a signing to be done. And so I don't know if this is just performative, or if this is like some sort of symbolic, or if he's trying to, similar to what, like Trump was signing the executive orders and those big, like with the Sharpie markers. And, you know, Carney's first act was to sign, you know, the reduction of the carbon tax. It's like, well, that's not even a thing. You can't actually, you're not signing anything real. Like, is this just all performative, you know, politics? And are we as Canadians this daft to accept that and believe that? It's a wild one to me. Wild.
They seem to be very envious of Trump and what he does. Even the First Lady, the Dianne Fox Carney calling herself the First Lady, which doesn't exist in Canada either. But it seems like they really want what the Americans have, like the signing papers and all this stuff. But like, you know, like the real thing is he's getting stuff done. And we're not. That's the thing. Capital continues to flee Canada because of certainty. We're going to get into some of that here in a bit here. And of course, you know, the CBC gets stuff leaked out to them so that they can front run it. We got that leak there that there's going to be over $500 million for identity politics again for, you know, certain groups and that. And here's another leak here. The Globe and Mail got this leak and CBC confirmed it. We're going to play a little clip here from our retired Lieutenant General Andrew Leslie here.
General Andrew Leslie is with me this morning, the former commander of the Canadian Army, and he's in Ottawa this morning. Welcome back to our show, sir. It's good to see you.
Morning, Heather.
Good morning. I was struck by one of the things that the finance minister said yesterday. François-Philippe Champagne said, this is the kind of budget you will remember. Let's start big picture, broad picture. If there is a major infusion of money for the military and Canada's defense industry, what is your big picture hope? What do you think we'll remember in terms of that spending today?
Well, the additional $9 billion promised by the Prime Minister is more than welcome. It's desperately needed. Let's not forget, the last 15 years have not been kind to the Canadian forces. They're desperately short of all sorts of equipment. They don't have enough people to get the job done safely. And our ability to contribute to international missions overseas with our friends and allies is arguably at its lowest point, and you're ready for this, about 50 years. So much work is needed.
So the money today would be a start. Can I bring a little bit of breaking news to you? I was just reading it to you in the commercial break. The Globe and Mail first broke this, and CBC News has just confirmed this. Part of the budget today will be a plan to retire aging military fleets as a way to save money on maintenance costs, while the Canadian Forces wait for a wide range of new equipment that will be purchased through, as we've said, billions of dollars in increased defense spending. But the retiring of aging military fleets to save money on maintenance costs, what is your reaction to that, and what do you think the impact could be?
Well, I'd certainly like to know more details on that plan. And it's always a good idea to get rid of old stuff. But for the Canadian Armed Forces, they need stuff to train on. So if the government is thinking of getting rid of fleets until there's replacements available, that's probably not a great idea.
We can cut it off there.
I mean, that's ridiculous. It'll leave us completely defenseless. At least now we have bad defenses, but to save money and then have nothing in between, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Stephen Harper ordered the F-35s before he left. Trudeau, when he got in, he said he's not buying them because they're too expensive. Did a lot of hand-wringing. In 2023, he said, well, we're going to buy the F-35s. And then he got sent on his way to start dating Katy Perry, and now they're still hand-wringing on the F-35s. I think just the other day, Jolie promised us a decision on them, and then Mark Carney said, "Well, we're not sure. We're looking at other options." So, like, they'll be out of date by the time we decide to buy the F-35s. Like, we have, I think, 4 diesel subs. 2 were bought in a UK garage sale. I think only 1 is operational now. And it's a diesel sub. And yet we're going to buy 9 or something like that, 9 diesel subs, I think. Whereas Australia is getting a nuclear sub. Like, I mean, if you go in ChatGPT and just ask the difference between a nuclear sub and a diesel sub, you'd have to shake your head.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know if you recall, but back when Trudeau was still in, there was a committee phase that was done on the F-35s. And there was, at the time, Commander Michael Hood. And he was, and I mean, I just heard his name over and over and over again as he was testifying about the F-35s and their capacity, and about the F-18s that we currently have, and about how aging that fleet is. And so he was the commander of the Air Force at the time. And I actually reached out on a whim and, reached out and said, hey, is there any chance that you would have an interview with me, and I just have some information that I'd like to kind of ascertain. And he ended up meeting me for coffee, and it was the most absolutely eye-opening meeting I had ever had. But basically, the reason that the U.S. flies their F-35s up here to defend us whenever there's something that we need defended is even weather balloons, but is the fact that our F-18s don't communicate with anything else. So they are running on such ancient and antiquated technology that we literally cannot fly with other air forces in the world, and including our closest allies, which is the U.S. So we are so far behind the 8 ball. We should have bought these a long time ago. They would have cost us way less than what they will cost us today, because costs have continued to go up over the course of the last 10 years. And this is a huge blunder by the Liberal government, and they have to wear this one.
Well, the good news is by the time we do get around to buying the F-35s, we'll be buying them used from somebody in a garage sale again. And you know what I mean? Like, it's the last 2 times in the Pacific Coast that we scrambled jets to respond to unidentified flying aircraft that are coming into our airspace were not CF-18s. They were NATO planes. Well, let's just say American fighter jets responded to both threats. Yeah.
Indeed. So, I mean, he is absolutely correct. We need something to train our our forces on, and to leave us in a gap with nothing and in a lurch is very short-sighted.
Well, Ian put this in for us, so we're going to get surprised. Champagne asked what he has to say to Canadian families worried about their jobs and their welfare, and Champagne has an answer, I guess.
Be reassured in a way that we have made the right choices, that we're going to do that in a smart and compassionate way, preserving the key services that are dear to Canadians, and at the same time making sure that we become more efficient. There's a lot of things we can do, but overall, if you ask me, Canadians will feel good tonight. We're going to be okay as a country. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of concerns in families, on the shop floor, in the fields. But I would say tonight people will go to bed and say, we're going to be okay. Canada is a strong country. We have strong foundation, strong industry. This budget will really bring us forward as a nation, empower people. It's a pivotal moment, and I think Canadians are ready for that.
Votre message de la fonctionnaire, il y a beaucoup de fonctionnaires qui ont concern pour.
That's good. And we don't need the French answer, but I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, I love when they tell us what to think. But, I don't think that Canadians believe that we can go down to a balanced budget in one fell swoop. But I definitely think that Canadians want us to get closer to that. So if this budget is a big, huge reach, it's going to be, I think this could be, Carney's undoing at this point. I don't think people believe that you can go to that extent on deficit without having some big consequences.
And then the only person that's seen this budget other than the Liberals, and I don't know which of the Liberals saw it, but is this guy here, the parliamentary budget officer, and he was telling us that it was shocking, stupefying, unsustainable, and like staring into the edge of a cliff here. We'll just play this little clip here when he was at committee hearing.
Stupefying, shocking, right? This is not like it's not a funny fiscal outlook.
That's good.
Yeah, and this is reacting to their fiscal update and the outlook budget that goes into the budget. It's like a precursor to where the budget comes out. That is scary when he talks about them being, it being that shocking, and honestly, for us to then, expect that their $100 billion deficit budget is going to in some way be a response or an answer to this that is in any way other than shocking or stupefying, I think would be naive.
And then, like the CBC was cheerleading it this morning. There were some articles out there saying, "Oh, it's going to be under 100 billion." Do you remember? It's like this is going to be a great.
like literally think about what you just said. Like think about how ridiculous that feels to say it might be under 100 billion. What? Like since when are you?
That's good news, right? That's good news. It's under 100 billion,
that's
right?
Good news. That is like, oh yeah, today I'm, anyway.
That is a problem, though.
That is not good news, and this has been the frog in the kettle. And we need to stop the boil. We need to stop turning up the heat. We need to stop the death of 1,000 cuts. We need to start educating the Canadian public as to what this means and why, on the global world, we are falling in numbers of, our actual OECD, calculation of where our GDP is going to be and where our economy is going to be. We used to be in the top 10. We are no longer. We're in number 25. Like we are falling off a cliff, and it's largely because of how our government is spending and that our economy is not doing well right now.
And it would be different if the corporations that are investing capital would say, this is the budget we need. You know what I mean? If they were saying, okay, we'll bring capital back to Canada. But that's not what we're seeing. That's not what we're continuing to see this flee of capital, right? We did it this morning. Glencore talking about shutting down one of the few copper mills actually in Canada that actually refines copper here, the largest one. That's not what we're hearing. We're seeing the auto sector basically imploding on itself because, again, the EV mandate, all these things, these policies. And the big one in Canada, in which I can't remember how many people signed that letter now out of Alberta, all the CEOs that signed that letter. Was it like over 50? I can't remember the big names.
No, it was like 96 CEOs that signed it, yeah.
Big names saying we need to get another pipeline to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Carney will not commit to that. That's if that's in the budget, that'll be helpful if they're committing to a pipeline to the West Coast, but I doubt it if we're going to see that.
And Jim, this is literally what we were talking about earlier. When a government is visionary, when they are well defined, when they are focused, when they have made it very, very easy to do business within their borders, what happens? Brookfield and Cameco, actually go and sign $80 billion deals. That is what happens. That is how investment follows a government that is actually clear and defined in its intention and where it wants its economy to go and its infrastructure to go. We gave an example of what that looks like. When was the last time we heard in Canada an announcement of that nature? It's been crickets. It's crickets. And why is it crickets? Because nobody is investing in Canada right now because we don't have a government that is clear. We are sitting on this show and listening to politics all day, every day, cannot tell what this government is actually about and couldn't tell you whether or not this is going to be in our budget today.
Cameco, one of Canada's great companies as well in Saskatchewan, like literally a great company. And I know some of the people that work there. And the thing is, here's the deal with Cameco. They only have so much they can do on their plate, just like your company. You only have so much to do on your plate. Now they're busy. They're busy because they own like just about half of Westinghouse. They're busy for the next 10 years building 8 large nuclear reactors because between them and Brookfield, they own Westinghouse. Westinghouse is the one that builds nuclear reactors. So their plate is full. So there's no room when Canada comes and says, okay, Cameco, can you build this one? They're just like, our plate's full, man. Like, our dance card is full.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's also, these are fast-tracked nuclear power plants. Yeah. Like, fast-tracked. Of course they're going to go there. They're going to be able to make more money faster.
Just think if we could do that. You know what I mean? Like, because again, they're in our backyard.
Yeah.
Like right now, Kevin O'Leary had a good pitch, right, to do something in northern Alberta there for LNG and that, but I'm sure like Kevin O'Leary is also down in the States most of the time. I mean, there's a draw there because you have choices, right? You have choices. Where should I do this? Because all these places, I listened to the interview there the other day with the head of Satya, the head of Microsoft, and Sam Altman. They literally have GPUs sitting on the shelf they cannot deploy because they don't have the power. What does Canada have? Power. Somebody get on the phone. Somebody get on the phone, right?
Yeah.
Somebody clear the red tape. Somebody do something. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have enough power here in BC. We buy our power off of Alberta and Washington because they make theirs with LNG and natural gas and coal. So, I mean, we're so disingenuous with how we claim that being electrified is somehow cleaner. But I say that to say, could we have power for AI, for the technology, and for the data centers? Absolutely, we could. And it's our choice that we don't. And we need to wake up and start actually focusing on, what the world needs and how we can be the means to fulfill that.
And I've interviewed the person from the Economic Long Wave. Can't remember his name off the top of my head now, but I just did an interview with him. We're talking about the winter that's coming, the economic winter that's coming to Canada. And so you have a couple of choices when there's an economic winter coming. You can flee to the south to sunnier climates, like Brookfield. Brookfield left for sunnier climates. We just saw that example. Cameco as well. They go to sunnier climates and they deal there, and they don't have to deal with the economic winter here. Or you can buy a jacket. You have to protect yourself from this coming economic winter. But he's saying Canada's private debt to GDP, mostly mortgages, now higher than the U.S. in 2008, and we know what happened there in 2008 and 2029, and also Japan's took Japan forever to come out of that malaise. Remember that with the Japan economy just went into this, and it's barely coming out now. I think there's some hope now for Japan with this new prime minister, and like right away there's big deals done with Trump. Japan is likely looking, their stock market shot up to highs. I mean, it was a big deal for Japan and for her election, and the stock market showed it. And the same thing happened in the United States when Trump won the election. Stock market, I think, has made 46 highs since Trump's been elected, and a whole bunch of things are happening. Trillions of dollars in investment. I don't know what it's going to take for the Canadian politicians to realize the problem is regulation, taxation, and just getting things done, right? Just like be friendly to capital.
Yeah. And you ask a great question. What is it going to take? You know, the sad thing for me about Carney is that he is an economist. He should know these things. He should understand.
He does. But
and if he does, then he is either doing harm to the Canadian people and doing so knowingly, or he has become so consumed by his echo chamber of the green economy that he has forgotten what actually drives an economy forward. You misspoke on the numbers. It's 2008 and 1929. Those are two of the darkest periods of Canadian economic history, and this is a really scary statistic and something that we need to heed because this is something that could literally create our collapse.
I think you nailed it there. The ideology, and it's where Carney's bread is buttered, and he's making, Brookfield has bet a lot on this climate policies and this carbon capture. And they believe they're doing the politics of 10 years ago, but everybody's moved on.
It's a climate play. It is a, I don't even want to put it in good terms because it's not something that is true. It's like it's basically like they're putting it into a climate play where they think that policies are going to drive investment dollars rather than.
Well, I call it a climate grift. Well, I call it the new climate grift. And here's the thing, is just the people that are listening to this, the world's moved on. Trump went to Japan, Trump went to South Korea and to Germany and signed deals with all of them. Not one of them, I can bet you, whatever you want to bet, asked to see their climate plan. None. Because Carney talks about how the world wants to buy only energy that is carbon free or carbon neutral and that stuff. Like who are these people? Because India don't care, China don't, you know what I mean? Like the world has moved on. So they're playing the politics, but I think Brookfield and Mark Carney have invested so much money in this climate ideology that's why this seems to be the cornerstone, still the Trudeau era cornerstones of this thing. I think because there's so much money that they've invested in this thing that the world has moved on from.
And I hope that you're wrong. I hope that our prime minister is not so self-interested to cut off our nose to spite our face on this. You're absolutely right. Everyone else has moved on. This is not part of the vernacular and common conversation, largely because of what the Fraser Institute report found this last week, which is that it has cost so much money. It has sucked money out of the economy rather than actually contributed to productivity and to moving an economy forward. There is no such thing as a green economy. It doesn't exist. There is energy economies. There's prosperity. There's a prosperity economy, but there is not a green economy. And if Carney actually, hedges and tries to force Canada into this place in space, it would be very self-interested, either because he, believes in the activism that he preaches, or because he actually has a self-interest in Brookfield that he wants to actually realize.
Well, I mean, Anita Anand was asked, and she said, we have what the world wants. Canada has what the world wants in its wind. I'm just like, what are you talking about? What are you literally talking about? We got lots to get through, and because we got lots in BC here, so we're going to kind of like skirt over a couple of these things here. The Doug Ford fiasco, Mark Carney, again, can we just get some honesty out of somebody? Just a little bit of honesty.
See, and I thought they were all pretty honest. Doug was not going to let Carney throw him under the bus. So he's like, he saw it, he approved it. Carney's wearing this one. Carney looks really bad on this one. I don't think Doug Ford looks like he lost. I think that Carney does. And Carney looks weak. He apologized to Trump. He removed tariffs for Trump. He has not gotten anything from Trump. And then he lied about it. But even in the election, and I was shocked at how many times the mainstream media was calling out Carney's lies. Like, no, you said you didn't you weren't involved in the decision to move Brookfield, and it's your name on the actual like signatory of the minutes where that decision was made. Like there are some really, really horrible lies that Carney has told. So for me, Doug Ford does not look like the liar in this case. It's really Carney that's wearing it, and he's looking very weak going into this budget.
And then you probably know Chase Barber. I've interviewed him a few times. He runs Edison Motors. Stealing Tesla's ideas is his motto. He's kind of a really good guy he knows how to use social media. And he's, making diesel trucks and putting electric motors in, logging trucks and that. So he's got a sale and he's moving it across. He's trying to get it into Manitoba for his sale. And let's listen into what Chase Barber has to say.
News, it's Monday morning. We just got our permits and we are now able to take this truck into Manitoba. So a lot of people are asking, why did we need a permit? We don't seem to be oversized, overheight, or anything like that. And it's because Canada has interprovincial barriers to trade. Basically, a semi-truck from one province can't go into another province without paying that province a couple $100s first. Now, trucks that do this all the time, they can get a prorated license plate, keep track of their kilometers, pay at the end of the year. Because this truck doesn't do that a lot, it mainly doesn't leave Alberta, it doesn't have prorate, so it's got to get an individual permit, which most provinces, you can all do that online, no problem. Manitoba, you actually have to phone somebody. But why does Canada have this? Why do semi-trucks have to pay a couple $100s every time they transfer provinces? It's all one country. It should be the same, and we should have free movement of goods within our own country. The fact that we had to...
Good. Go Team
God
Canada.
bless Chase.
Go Team Canada.
Yeah, I love what he's done. I love what he's doing. I love, the focus that he has and trying to do things innovatively, etc. He is right. And this is the most ridiculous example that I've heard lately. But there are so many examples. Wineries can't ship to another province, or, there's a plumber can't work from Alberta, in Manitoba. Like there's just ridiculous restrictions. They all need to go. We need one act that basically eliminates all of these provincial borders, and it's either buck up or we take over these particular aspects of your economy.
We've talked about that quite a bit, the self-harm that we do ourselves. And we played a clip this morning on the Really Big Show, and it was Tiff Macklin talking about all these, like you just said, like plumbers, nurses, everything. You know what I mean? Like every profession. You can't even drive a truck. Like we are our own worst enemy. A lot of the stuff that we've done, why we find ourselves in this moment, is our own doing. Like, like if we had the Northern Gateway pipeline right now, if we'd had the Eastern pipeline right now, we wouldn't be in this position right now. If we would have signed the LNG deals with Japan, South Korea, and Germany, just think of the difference where Canada would be right now. Plus, we have a really angry province, Alberta, that is basically the golden goose of Canada. You know what I mean? We've treated them like the ugly stepsister. I don't know. And then we have this, and this we come back to this, and this is we still don't have answers to this. This is still being blocked. Yabo, we still don't have an answer to this. Again, we can't get anything.
Yeah, and I've heard rumors that he's going to be exited. I don't know if that's true or not, but he was on the chopping block along with Andrew Wilkinson and Chrystia Freeland. There's a whole bunch of them that were going to be exited, I think 4 in total. I haven't seen if this is true yet. He's kind of been the sleeper on this one, but this is disgusting. This needs to be investigated. Why this isn't criminal is beyond me, and why we are allowing government to not actually produce these documents is horrific.
And then if you look at the CBC's, according to the CEO, they're unbiased. Listen to this, though. Like, they're doing the election. Last night there was an election there in the Yukon. Like, listen to this clip here. It's hilarious.
In one seat. Callie, do you want to break this down for us? Yeah, I mean, very early, so we can't get too excited just yet. But yes, it looks like...
That's good enough. That's good enough. Can't get too excited. There's 24 votes. It's 24 votes. Can't get too. They're calling the election after 24 votes. Turns out they're wrong. The Yukon Party won that thing and basically wiped out the Liberal Party up there. So it's hilarious actually to watch that. So, but just in the interest of time, I kind of cut it short. But it says now there's only one Liberal premier left in Canada. I don't think that's counting Doug Ford, though.
Yeah, but I don't think that Doug Ford would call himself a liberal. So, yeah.
That's my humor. Listen, we're going to focus a little bit on BC though, because BC has some pots. We had Jonathan Kay we interviewed. You went and watched him at the theater there, and he said as bad as Canada is in some areas, BC is they're wondering if we're okay out here. And this is EB now talking about. We'll just play a little clip here talking about he's going to pull these ads here, and this has to do with he got some attention for forestry here.
For the sector, on the advertisements, we've committed to the federal government that when the time comes to be speaking directly to Americans, we'll do it in partnership with them. We will not be running the ads by ourselves. We'll make sure that we're in line with strategy going forward. And that is a recognition on our part.
Okay. This is funny because the ads I thought were supposed to get the US's attention. But what he just said is that because the Liberals are going to work alongside him, he'll pull the ads. So what was he actually attempting to do? It seems like he was trying to get our federal government's attention, and it had nothing to do with the US, and that he really didn't think he was going to get a whole lot of anything done that way. This is EB in his finest. EB is weak. We are the laughingstock of the entire country and then outside of the country. There are a couple of national associations that I belong to. We've got the presidents of these associations calling, our BC leads and basically saying, what is going on in BC? What is happening there? This is just another example. EB is an activist and EB is aimless. And this should have been, we as MLAs, when I was still, the Legislative Assembly, we were talking to EB about trying to get a softwood lumber deal. We were talking to Horgan about trying to get a softwood lumber deal. And Mike DeYoung was sitting there as the one who last got a deal done. And he said, it took me 4 months to get that deal done. And, literally, this government has sat on their hands for the last 10 years and has not enacted anything on behalf of our forestry industry. And it was intentional. I know you and I go back and forth on this all the time. Watch what a government does, not what they say. They say that they are for the forestry industry, but this government has not done anything to support the forestry industry in any way, shape, or form, including they have not actually been petitioning on behalf of the softwood lumber industry over the course of the last 10 years.
And I've done tons of interviews in forestry long before Trump was elected, and including the forest minister, Brenda Bailey, when she was jobs minister. And I read her jobs plan there, and it didn't even mention sawmills in there, and asked her that question. She said, well, we're focusing on value add. And I said, well, isn't a 2x4 value add? Because you don't add any value, you stick it in a wall, it's a done, right? You build houses, right? What more are you doing to that 2x4, 2x6, 2x8? It's a finished product. There is no value to add to it. And I said, there's little attention to sawmills, and I talked to EB about it too, and their biggest thing is that they can't get access to fiber. And Canfor said BC is uninvestable. And, that's AP planers, and that's been said over and over. And I've got this article that we just put up here. And here's a recent investigation published by the Tyee shows that big forestry companies, Canfor, Interfor, and West Fraser, were investing billions south of the border well before Trump initiated the trade war. So this has been going on. This is 10 years of neglect of forestry.
Absolutely. When I was meeting with forestry companies, they would talk about the billions of dollars that they were getting or that they were taking across the border. And they would talk about all the other investments that they were making outside of BC. Why? Because BC's stumpage and BC's, fiber control was outlandish. And, we had the old growth initiative and report. We had, the indigenous rights and literally, forestry companies are sitting on their hands and they cannot move in BC. So they are going elsewhere because they have to make a buck. And so the US has opened up their doors all, wide and they're going down south and opening up plant after plant after plant so that they can actually, make money.
And that's played out. When I interviewed the head of Kofi too, 10,000 job losses in 2 years. This is prior to Trump. And then just now we're talking about another 2,000 with the trade war. Forestry's, according to Rustad and Falcon, was in shambles long before Trump showed up on the scene. And this is all through policies of the NDP. And when I talked to one of the industry insiders, he said that they are closely aligned with Stephen Guilbeault and basically said, don't cut trees down in British Columbia. So
yeah, and I want to have like a bell every time we talk about investment dollars that are being deployed somewhere else. We need to have like a ring the bell. Yeah. This is another example of exactly that, where we have 4 companies that are all investing down the States and are not investing in Canada.
Canfor, one of Canada's greats. BC's great. Canfor is a British Columbia company.
Yeah, and this is not about them not wanting to be here. They want to be here. All of the companies that we've mentioned want to be in Canada, but we are not competitive, and we do not have a formula, that will help to make them money. Instead, we have bureaucracy that slows them down and introduces so many risk factors that they simply cannot find it tenable to invest those billions of dollars that are required.
Well, I interviewed the forest minister at that time, Bruce Ralston, and then one of the company executives. And I said, are you guys at the same meeting? Because you're saying different things. And one would say they're lying, the other one would say they're lying. And I said, well, shouldn't we fix this, right? Because obviously you're not attending the same meetings because you come away with different understandings. And the thing is, they have control of their own purse and they decide where they go, and they say BC is uninvestable. That is their words. And their ability to control their own purse, right? That's their thing, and they've shown where they're going. They show you what they're doing, and then you can be right all you want, BC NDP, or you think you're right, but at the end of the day, it's their money.
Yeah. It's their money, and the economy is the great tattler.
And then this is the big problem in BC right now that I think, according to David Eby, he said that courts promised him it wouldn't get out of control. Turns out, let's play the second clip. I don't think we need to play the first clip. Let's play the second clip because I think the second clip kind of says it all here.
Currently with that situation, what would you like to say about that decision recently?
Thanks. I know this is a crucially important issue for many people who are here at the First Nations Leadership Gathering and around the province. The court decision that was rendered has created some uncertainty about 150 private property owners and their title in Richmond, and business owners and their title in the claim area. And so for our part as government, we need to ensure that there is clarity about the fee simple ownership of property. It's the basis of a lot of work that happens, a lot of economic activity that happens in our province. It's basic for families. But at the same time, we also need to recognize that our forebears politically displaced the Cowichan people from a plot of land unfairly and unjustly. These are the challenges and the balance that we need to find going forward. I hope that we're able to reach resolution through the court process of the injustice that was done to the Cowichan people, and at the same time ensure that we have clarity and protection of private property rights in the province. This is a challenge, but it's certainly not impossible. We've done it before on Haida Gwaii. We do it regularly through treaty. And I do believe that there is a path forward here for the province, but those two elements need to be addressed.
And follow up.
That's good.
This is so scary. That comment is so scary. And again, like, he is not saying that, he needs to ensure that those titles are secure. And he is wrong in that it only threatens the title of those individuals. There's already been 3 other court cases that are all threatening other fee simple titles. So it's he knows this. This is his agenda. This is what he wants. That's why he's actually acknowledging the Haida as the example of how to do this. I'll just remind all of the listeners, the Haida is actually the one where they actually received title. So they did not protect fee simple lands. Fee simple lands were given to the Haida, and now Haida have those titles. So this is not. This is very scary, and Eby doesn't care. And I think that we need to take that very seriously and think through what the implications are here, because this is sending shockwaves through the business community, shockwaves through the financial community, and everyone's scratching their head asking, like, what are you doing in BC?
Yeah, EB's, what he said there, I'm not sure if it was in this clip or the other clip now, their clips are running together for me. The clip where he said that the courts promised him that they wouldn't go after the private lands, and that he's surprised that's why he didn't inform the landowners, because the landowners just woke up one morning and found out that you know, like they couldn't fight for their own land or anything, so they were just informed one morning that their title was in jeopardy. And you know, there's already talk about banks not lending and stuff like that, and EB's saying, well, you know, I haven't heard that, but I haven't seen that. But when you do a mortgage, the bank asks for title, because you don't get the title back until you pay off the mortgage, right? So what title are you going to give the bank? So why would they give you money? Do you know what I mean? Like, so if you go to the bank, you're supposed to give them a title. You give the title, and then they give you the money and then you get it back once you pay off the loan. So, of course, there's uncertainty, and I did talk to Brenda Bailey about this uncertainty. I think he's opened up a can of worms that he's going to have a lot of trouble putting back. You know, like Pandora's box. He's opened it up. And he's empowered this, and it's going to be a huge mess. And I don't even think something. He does not know what he's done, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he understands the impact of it. And he's trying to hum and haw there, but he's caused this. And I did an interview with Jeff Moyse, the Aboriginal lawyer there, 31 years serving 6 governments in BC. And we went through the Haida decision, and like you said, there's title transfer there as well. And they have a contract that kind of like, but he said, I don't know how that contract holds up. But this calls into question the legitimacy of the Crown, because the Crown is who awards the properties, right? So the only recourse right now is for people to sue the Crown, and it sounds like, you know, like people are going to start fighting back. And you know, what are they? You know, these properties have a cloud over them right now. And
this is messy really fast, really, really fast. The Richmond owners were not given the right to actually fight because they weren't informed that this was at stake. I don't know how the court gives EB assurance, so that's a weird one.
That's puzzling for me.
Doesn't give assurance, so that's like them determining their outcome before they determine the outcome. I don't know how genuine that statement is, but I would disagree with one thing you said, Jim, and that is I do not for 1 minute think that this is not part of EB's plan. EB has this ideology and activist, thinking that is a little off-putting and off-kilter. It's not like even the Indigenous bands are not in agreement. The Musqueam are one of the ones, and the Tsleil-Waututh or the Tsawwassen are the other, that are going to actually appeal this decision. So they're not even in agreement as to who the lands were gifted to and when and why and how and who uses them. Remember, the Cowichan use this as like a summer, like a camping spot.
Fishing.
Like this is like fishing. Like, well, the Musqueam said that they fished there too. So I don't know which one gets it. Like, this is a mess, and it's a mess between the Indigenous tribes. It's a mess between, tribes and the government. It's a mess all the way around, and it's going to take years to figure out. And in the meantime, the taxpayer is the one that's going to be caught in the middle.
Well, the landowner there too, because you can't sell it. Like, because EB said in one of the press conferences there, he said that, well, I mean, you can still sell your property for what? Pennies on the dollar? How much? Like, who's buying it? Like, why don't you buy it? Because I think if EB wants to give assurances to the people in Richmond, he should backstop it. He should backstop the mortgages and backstop their property value right now. But he won't do that, right?
He can't. It's almost $100 billion. It would bankrupt the provincial government. So there is no solution other than to make laws to reverse things like DRIPA and like the Haida decision. Those are the two that the justice used as her, as her rationale for why she should give title to the Cowichan. Those are her two, and those are both EB's and EB's government. So while Attorney General and while Premier, he has done both of these things.
Yeah, and that's what the lawyer says. Jeff Moyes said too that that has to be taken away. The UNDRIPA and DRIPA, those things have to go. He said that is because it's not required. It's not in our constitution. It is just something that the David Eby and the NDP have decided to adopt.
Agreed. And again, in the debate in the Legislative Assembly when DRIPA was ratified, the assurance was given that this would not have anything to do with property rights, and yet we have justices that are using it for property rights, so or for justification for property rights. So we have to unwind these things and put laws in place that protect property holders.
I don't know what one of the users or viewers is saying. It's not live. It is live, but hey, not sure what you're talking about. But it's an hour 10. We usually go about an hour, and again, it's been great as usual. I do thank you, Renee, for the time, and I'm sure we'll recap the budget next week. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Like, we'll have
Absolutely.
it tomorrow morning on the Really Big Show as well. We'll dedicate the show tomorrow morning on the as much as we can. Like our Really Big Shows. Sometimes it's 2 hours now. There's so much stuff to get through. It's just crazy, right? We could probably talk all day, but again, I thank you, and I thank you for watching Now Media.